How you doing, fam bam? This is Chris Mizo here, and welcome to the second part of a motherboard install of how to build your PC, specifically the 12th generation Intels. So we are going to get the motherboard ready, and as you saw, I should say, on the first part, on how to remove the case and how to prepare it for a motherboard install. And the reason why you are on the second part is because you are looking to purchase a motherboard for your case. So let's get to the motherboard first, and we'll put this to the side here. As you see here, we have ASUS's Z690F gaming motherboard. This is a really great motherboard, especially if you're using it for gaming, because you may not need as much power as a ASUS Z690 Hero or a ASUS Z690 Hero Formula, because a lot of those motherboards will require you to overclock, and if you're not that type of person where you're into overclocking your PC, that may not just justify you purchasing a $600 to $800 motherboard. Now you can purchase this motherboard for only about $399.99. And it does have some really great features. It also still has DDR5 memory that you can use. It does have PCI Express 5.0, but I don't believe it comes with the PCI Express 5.0 NVMe cards that you get with the Heroes. But I think this will do just enough for what you need, especially when you're using it for gaming. So you want to be really careful when you do purchase a motherboard, because some things that you do want to look for is, does DDR5 really matter to you, or do you not really care about DDR5 as much? Maybe you just want some DDR4 because you're looking to get better overclocks off of that. So these are some things that you should consider before you get a motherboard. And you also want to look at PCI Express 5.0 if that's what you're interested in entering when you have a 12th generation Intel processor. Without further ado, let's open this up, because I'm excited to see what ASUS has to offer, and hopefully this motherboard doesn't catch on fire like their other motherboards, as I'm sure you've heard. So let's open this up. Right, so this does feature Wi-Fi 6E, and if that's important to you, if you have a modem, or if you have a router that's far enough from your PC, maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need that distance. Maybe you need Wi-Fi-E. So that is something to look into, especially if you're looking for a motherboard. It does come in a really nice casing. A lot of motherboards usually do. And as you can see, it just has that ESD bag on it, and it does have its accessories. It looks like right here that you flop open. Of course, I'll give you a deeper look. So more than likely, this is just, it looks like they offer you a nice little Wi-Fi piece here to add for your Wi-Fi, little Wi-Fi extender here. This also is important because you need to connect this, especially if you're using it for Bluetooth as well. So make sure you have this connected to your PC when you are finished install, but we'll get to that later. So if Wi-Fi is important to you, make sure you install this piece. Now the board comes with bare essentials, I should say. Of course, you got the motherboard here in its ESD bag. We'll further get into that shortly. I'll show you quickly what's inside of this box. I'm sure it has some really nice things, like it has a little ASUS key tag, which is pretty cool. And it does feature extra quick connects, which are a really awesome feature, which I will show you shortly. Especially if you're building a brand new PC and you're new to builds, that is a really awesome feature that they do feature on these Z690 boards. But these are just extra ones here. So if you want to add more to it, you can. When you have a motherboard too, it is also really important to keep the manual on the side, because there are some things that you will have to look into, and it's really good to look into the manual for any other suggestions. So it is good to have this, such as like if you're using it for your IO ports, as we spoke earlier about the case. This is good to look into, because that way you know exactly what type of pins to use. So put that on the side here, and then you have the CD drive. This is a CD A lot of people don't use optical drives anymore, and that's not a problem. If you cannot use this because your PC does not have an optical drive, it's not really an issue, because you could actually go on ASUS's website, and you could download the drivers, and most of the time the motherboards do come preloaded with a lot of the drivers. So we'll put that to the side, and of course you got the ROG stickers right here, and you have their nice little warranty card. Sometimes they'll come with these are SATA ports, so these are really important to use if you're going to use a SSD that is not NVMe, or if you're using a hard drive. So it's good to have these. And you got wire ties, and it also comes with another quick connect here. So that's everything that it does feature for this motherboard. It doesn't have the it doesn't feature some of the nice things that it does with the ASUS Z690 Hero, such as the little jumpers that you can use for your power ports. It's not really necessary to have, but of course this is probably going to be more of your start on how to build a PC anyway. So really, essentially, you just need to keep your manual out, and it's a good idea to also just have your motherboard out. Those are the only really main two things. Unless you're going to have a solid state drive installed later, it's good to have those other cables out too. But more than likely, you're probably just going to need the motherboard and just your manual. I always like the crunching sound when with new ESD bags, especially when you get new products. It's always exciting. Let's double check these capacitors, right? Make sure that ASUS didn't put any backwards this time. It's a beautiful looking board. It doesn't have as much dazzle, as you can say, with the Z690 Hero boards, but it is beautifully designed, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, perform. And when you're looking at motherboards, that's what you're looking for. Especially if budget really matters to you, this is perfect for you, because you're not going to really notice that much of a difference from a $600 motherboard unless you are overclocking. So I do gotta say that it is good to examine everything that is on this board. What we have learned from the Z690 Hero is it is good to double check to make sure that all the capacitors are hooked up correctly, to make sure that nothing is backwards, which can happen at times. So it's always good to double check everything with these motherboards, such as these capacitors over here. Looks like the capacitor right here, the infamous memory capacitor. As you heard from the Z690 Hero boards, this motherboard does not have any known issues with it, and it does look like it is hooked up correctly. So with this is the CPU power here. That's what powers up your CPU for your motherboard. Over here, you're gonna have your CPU fans, as you can see. And this will actually hook up to your RGBs. You have them here. And you will also have a ATX power right here. That's what this is for. And this will be for your memory here. Over here is also your processor, which is also important to know. And you could actually leave the cover on when you do install your CPU. This will be the lever arm that you will lift, which I will show you shortly. And of course, you have all your other capacitors here. And over here will be for your USB 3.2. And that will be for your USB-C here. If you look over here on the side, you'll notice that you have ports here, and that'll be for your SATA power. And you will have also another fan hookup right there. Down here will be your front panel connections here to your case I/O, and you will also have more fan connections And these funny looking things here are for your USB 2.0. And then you have your RGB hookups right here. And then you have your audio right here, which is the memory for your motherboard. Over here is going to be your PCI Express 5.0 by 16 slot. And up here to install your NVMe, if that's what you will be using. Of course, back here you can see your beautiful IO slots. So before you purchase a motherboard, make sure it has all the features that you do want. Another really neat feature is, if you notice here, it does have slotted holes. You notice right there, it has slotted holes. And that's really good for when you are installing a cooler of some sort, a CPU cooler, because there will be many different variations. It doesn't really show it, but it's always good to look in your manual. If you look closely down there, that actually points at the arrow of the side of where the processor should be installed, in what direction. So make sure you have the processor facing on that direction before you do install it, because you do not want to bend any pins, otherwise it will cause some serious damage. So make sure that you have every single feature that you do want for your motherboard before you do go ahead and make your purchase. And if it does have everything that you want, then go for it, get that motherboard. So one of the things I personally like to do is install the CPU before we actually install the motherboard, before we put it inside the case. Matter of fact, I like to install not only the CPU, the RAM, we're going to try to install everything we can on the motherboard, because it will make our job that much easier. Because the reason why you want to do that is it's a lot less stressful trying to install a CPU, install any other PC components when it is already inside the case. So it's much easier to have it out just like it is now, and then install the CPU. Hopefully you found this content very useful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you know anyone else that is interested in building a PC and is brand new to it too, make sure you share this video with them, or share this playlist, because then they can build a PC with you guys. Also, if you want to join the Big Wonderful Fan Band, make sure you go down and hit the subscribe button for more, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. And also, make sure you don't forget to follow my Twitter handle right here, as it is the same as my TikTok and IG as well. Make sure you see part 3 on how to install a Intel 12th Gen series processor on a motherboard, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Chris Mizo, signing out.